Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast. My name is Christie Ogubere and this is episode 9. Now the topic for today's podcast is cybersecurity and privacy. Now in this episode I'm going to examine some of the top concerns, really especially around privacy. But there is a difference between protecting or data protection and privacy, and also there is a relationship between privacy and cybersecurity as well. And let's really look at what really privacy means to us, or not just to us, to the organization that is actually harvesting or capturing this data and storing this data within their physical infrastructure or within the cloud. So it really looks at the rights you have to your personal information. So when you, for example, you go to a website, you might enter a web form, or when you register for a service, or even if you're a customer, or you might register for a service and they might ask you for some of these personal identifiable information. So really what we're looking at here is that these information that's been harvested by these organizations, how do they use these data? So the policies, so they must have policies driven by law to secure that information. And again, what are your rights as a subject? Because as a subject, you can make a request to, under subject access rights, to gain or to know what information an organization has on you. Now, we are just looking at, just mentioned one example, which is a website. What about when you download smartphone apps? Now, how do you know they're actually keeping to the word? And I mean, when I mean the word, I mean that they're actually securing that data using maybe technical controls to actually secure that data. Now, on many instances, we share personal information with, let's say, with our banking. When you, let's say, you open a savings account, or you've got some money, some investment account. Again, what happens to that data? You've entered that information, and sometimes you also produce proof that you are who you say you are. Now, you've entered that information. What happens afterwards? So they need to maintain your privacy, and they have to use security tools or methods or policies to secure that information you have given them. This is supposed to be a relationship of trust. And once they kind of verify that you are who you claim to be, then they will then give you access to maybe some of the services or some of their products as well. Now, if your privacy, so that on that agreement, if your privacy or your information has been breached, then this is where when it becomes a problem. And there have been many instances. I'm going to cite a couple of examples, as we know that there's many instances here. Okay, have you also considered as well? Okay, they have obtain that information from you because you really want something from them, and they have given you that product or service, but they decided to go the extra mile, maybe to make some extra income and sell that information to third parties without actually informing you. Now, if that information is sold on, then of course your privacy is out the window. It's quite exposed. And what typically happens is that those who they sold that information to, if they do not have secure systems or interested in cybersecurity or information security, then that information can be breached as well. Now, what will be the effects on you personally is that you may become a victim of maybe identity theft. There might be some fraudulent, your details might be used for cyber fraud. To name a few, I'm just really naming a few here on this podcast. I've always mentioned about using a VPN to protect your privacy. And how does it work? Now, if you go to like a website, for example, it can block certain websites that might be deemed to be malicious, and using your internet browsers, and you also use various servers as well to protect your public facing IP. And then also, again, the security part comes in that it would prevents others, unauthorized persons, from accessing your personal information. Now, while we're on the subject of VPN, I'm going to mention this. We have an affiliate link, which is the NordVPN. Now, do not forget to protect your data in transit. And if you want to continue to maintain your privacy, use our affiliate link. The link is on the show notes. So you go to the show notes, you will see a link. And what can you really get from this affiliate link? There are benefits. Apart from security, you're going to have some kind of reduction. And what is this reduction? The reduction comes in the price you pay for NordVPN. Now, what do you get? You say you're going to get 70% off a 3-year plan, and you also get 1 month free. Now, in order for you to get this price, if you use the coupon code INTECHCYBER, I'm going to repeat that again, INTECHCYBER, and you are going to get this deal. And that's going to help you really to protect your privacy. All right, so go to the show notes and then click on the link and use that code. Then the journey kind of starts now. Start today. If you haven't done so already, you haven't got a VPN. All right, let's look at the workplace. Okay, so you're working for a company, and this organization, this company you work for, really when they onboard you, when you're starting work, they've offered you the job. Okay, now you need to provide information to prove your identity, and they would collect things like your national insurance number, which is in the UK. In America, it was called Social Security, your date of birth. Now, sometimes, depending on the role, they will ask you for some medical information as well. If they want, probably in some countries, they want to provide you with insurance. All right. So you can see they collect and your address. So they're kind of collecting, and then they'll ask for your an ID, such as your passport or your driving license. Okay. And these documents are, again, sometimes photocopy or scanned. Okay. Have you wondered? Okay, they've done this. Where are they keeping this information, and how secure it is? Okay, because under the law, let's say in the UK, you have GDPR. The organization has a responsibility, of course, on the data they collect from the customers, suppliers or staff. And what does this law say? The law says that in order for an organization to be compliant with GDPR, they must or they should implement data protection by design and have default measures. That's what the law says. So those organizations that are collecting data must comply with this law, GDPR. Now, no organization is above the law. No persons or no organizations are above the law of any land. Now, I did mention that I'm going to cite just a couple of examples of breaches. In the US, you've got the Privacy Protection Act. This is to do with Hulu. Okay, some of you might remember Hulu. It's like Netflix. What did they do? I mean, this is just what did they allegedly do? They kind of violated this law, which is, I said, the Privacy Protection Act, and allegedly Hulu disclosed the customer information they collected during registration of the services to third parties. Well, again, and then of course somebody made a complaint. So they collect this information as part of their process, but they decide to sell this on, which is wrong. Okay. Another example. Okay, this is again to do with in Malta. All right. Again, personal data that was collected. So what's the personal data? That's personal information about those who are going to be voting in the election. They collected this information, but where the breach happened is there was an IT security company that was responsible really for maintaining this information collected. Once they're maintaining it, what actually happened was there was a data breach, and there were over 300,000 Maltese personal data was leaked online. Can you imagine this? You went to register to vote, and a few months later, you hear that, there was a data breach and your name is on this, on the internet and information. Now, what really is the problem here is that, yes, they collect the data, but the company that responsible for the security of that data did not store that data or protect it adequately. What did they do? What happened was they used an unprotected database belonging to another software solution company, and of course they entered the things like their names, some identification numbers. And this information, even though if it's going to be sent to a third party, it wasn't redacted, it wasn't masked. And of course, when there was a breach, everything was out in the open. Because we were passing information to these organizations, because we want the product services, or there's some we want to do like voting, for example. Now, what should the companies themselves do? And they say, okay, they need to adhere to the laws in the country they operate, the law of the land. And of course, they should have policies internally and also on their website. So this is just a minimum I'm just talking about here. So they must have kind of privacy policies, have some kind of security policies, so that those processing the data and also data controllers, we know what to do. So give them some kind of guidance. And also, it also informs those whose data is being managed, how it's being done as well. Other things they need to do probably on an ongoing basis is to conduct some kind of cyber risk management and have an incident response team just in case something goes wrong. Okay, so that is something that needs to be done on an ongoing basis. So follow the law of the land, ensure that wherever that data is kept is secure. How do you verify that it's been secure? You conduct risk assessment, cyber risk assessments, and then you want to make sure that the controls they've put in place to secure that data is actually working. So it's still fit for purpose, all right? And if it isn't fit for purpose, then what can we do? How can we treat this new risk? So they need to do something in order to kind of reduce the impact. So these are things that companies should be doing on an ongoing basis, ongoing monitoring, and also reviewing the controls they have in place to protect customer information or even employee information. Now, it depends on from the organization's point of view, the customer base or the suppliers, possibly having some kind of consultation, these stakeholders. So these stakeholders are interested in your company, they have an invested interest, but probably have some kind of consultation to discuss or inform them how this data is being secured. Obviously, get insights from them as well, and how better to manage security or what they think should be done. Of course, they might not have that expertise, but possibly just having that outer oversight as well can help. Of course, having again cybersecurity tools and controls and expert staff as well. I also mentioned about having a readily available incident response team. So this team can be in-house or it can be outsourced. What would this team do? This team, of course, they're responsible for any kind of investigation. They maybe want to contain the incidents, and of course later on remediate. And then of course they're going to learn, okay, what did we do wrong? Lessons learned. So that's a specialist team, because you said we want to minimize the impact. And from the organization's point of view, if they're they do carry out or practice due care, then they might minimize some kind of penalties or financial loss. Because if they show to be negligent, then they might get fined. But if they've kind of done what they're supposed to do and sometimes there was an error, then of course maybe they won't get fined severely. Now, the organizations, yes, have to take responsibility in securing your data and especially and protecting your privacy using cybersecurity. However, I would say this is a two-way relationship. Yes, they've got their own responsibilities. You as a customer or the client have your own responsibilities. Now, let's use an individual. What can you do to kind of reduce this risk and kind of protect yourself? Now, we know that the internet is like, it's an insecure network. Everything's published out there. And we know that sometimes organizations are quite, as I said, maybe unscrupulous by sharing or selling this information on. So what can you do? What can you control yourself? Now, if you're using things like social media and Facebook, because sometimes cyber criminals can harvest information from your personal Facebook, make sure your social media accounts are secure. Okay, do not share everything. Everything is shared. Some people put pictures of their homes, announcement they're going on holiday. Reduce what you share on social media, because again, if you might share it within a group, somebody with that group might show it to somebody else. If you have, let's say, anything like paper-based products, let's say you've got anything on a paper, then instead of just put in the bin, make sure that what you shred it. All right, if you have a shredder, don't just put in the bin, because sometimes when you put the bins out on bin day, some people go around and start rifling through the bins. Okay, make sure that you shred the bins. Shred the paper based, and this, when I mean paper, I mean things that like bank statements, or you can also probably, instead of using paper based bank statements, why don't you go digital instead? Go digital, so you don't have to worry about, oh my god, you accumulating bank statements. Other things like your social security number, your national insurance number. Document who is giving this to. Do not give it to anyone, especially like now, the present time, when a lot of people, some people have lost their jobs and they're looking for work. Some unscrupulous companies are asking for ID before they offer them a job. They've actually gone for the interview. Can we see your ID? Then you think, okay, then I've actually done the interview and I haven't actually got the job, and you want to see my ID? I think they'll just walk away. Okay, I know you need the work, you need the job, but you have to kind of think someone should be ringing back of your ears. Now this is not right. Why should I give you identification before you actually offer me the job? All right, what are they going to do with it? That's a poor process, I would say. Any devices you've got at home or in the workplace, companies responsible for workplace security. But personally, you talk about personal now, secure any of your internet or things. Okay, I've mentioned the previous podcast. You can go back and listen to those. Change your passwords, for example. Use VPN. Be mindful when you go on Wi-Fi, the public Wi-Fi. Yes, it's free. Oh, it's delicious, but okay, make sure that you're using VPN to protect the traffic, so you're going to log in, make sure you protect that traffic. And I know sometimes some Wi-Fi, they want to, harvest data. Just be mindful of that as well. What they're asking, they want to give you free Wi-Fi, but they want to collect some information from you. Is that necessary before you give me access? Okay, if that is, I don't have to give you everything but the kitchen sink. All right? So again, be mindful of that as well. So just make sure you understand what information you're giving away. Now, sometimes organizations will publish their privacy policy on their website and can read what that means exactly. So okay then, because they're making a statement, this is how we collect data, this is what we do with the data, etc. All right. So kind of spend time as well. Don't kind of skip it. Read through the privacy policies. And same thing applies to cookies as well. When you go to a website that asks you if you accept cookies, take your time. I know you want to go to that website to use their services or access the product, use the services, but take time and see what kind of information are they actually collecting from you. And after a while, clear the cookies. So having these are things you can do. You can take ownership yourself. Take ownership of your own data, because sometimes we can't control what the company does, because we don't go in there to investigate. Okay, what can I do myself? What can I do? How can I manage my own information? Now, if you want further advice on really how to secure information, just listen to our previous podcasts. I talk about different ways of methods on how to secure your personal data, and as well, I move on to the organization's infrastructure as well. All right. So just kind of listen to other podcasts, and if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. Now, you can follow us on Instagram. So if you go to Cybersecurity Happy Hour podcast, you can leave a comment. And also you can contact me personally, because what I do, I'm a cybersecurity professional, and my role on a day-to-day basis when I'm not doing the podcast is I kind of carry out tests. I carry out penetration tests for organizations. I do risk assessments. So things I do on a day-to-day basis. So if you've got any questions, just hit me with your questions, and I try my best to respond promptly. Now, that's all for today's episode, and I thank you once again for tuning in and listening to this podcast. I try to keep it short and punchy so that I can actually get to the point and just kind of make you think about your own personal security, your own privacy, and what information are you sharing out there. Thanks again for listening again, and until next time.